What if the greatest enemy to your future isn't outside your home, but already inside it? Today, we expose how ordinary objects can carry extraordinary influence and how spiritual forces use familiarity to mask fatality. This is not superstition, this is strategy. What if I told you that not every item in your home is as harmless as it looks? What if I told you some objects carry an assignment, an invisible, spiritual assignment to invade, distract, and ultimately destroy? You see, the greatest threats are never the ones that announce themselves, they're the ones that blend in, the ones you walk past every day, the ones that seem decorative, innocent, maybe even sentimental. But what if those very things, yes, those were planted, positioned with precision to open doors in your life that were never meant to be opened? There are objects, physical things that serve as spiritual portals, gateways, channels. They don't need your permission, just your possession. Once they enter your space, they begin to manipulate the atmosphere. Slowly, silently, strategically, you begin to feel unrest in your home, tension, where there was peace, confusion, where there was once clarity. Your sleep becomes restless. Your relationships turn toxic. Your money seems to vanish, and you think it's just life. But life didn't shift, your environment did. And here's the twist: many of these objects are gifts. They came from people you trust. They were passed down, inherited, collected, or purchased without a second thought. But what you didn't know is that these items were charged with energy, with intent, with influence. Now, don't get me wrong, this isn't about fear, this is about awareness, because what you allow in your house can either protect your destiny or poison it. Some of these objects serve as surveillance tools for dark forces. Yes, you heard me. They're not just sitting on your shelves or hanging on your walls. They're watching, listening, gathering data about your habits, your weaknesses, your patterns, preparing to exploit them at the right time. And here's the real danger: when you normalize what should have been discerned, you give access to what should have been denied. That's how these portals work. They don't scream, they settle in. They become familiar. But just because it's familiar doesn't mean it's safe. You ever walked into a room and felt heavy for no reason, lost your temper over nothing, had back-to-back misfortunes, and couldn't trace the cause? Sometimes the source isn't outside, it's inside. And it's not a person, it's a thing with a purpose, a thing with a presence. So the question is, what's in your house right now that didn't just enter, it invaded? And if that was just one object, wait until you hear what comes next. Because the second object doesn't just open doors, it builds altars. And most people don't even know it's there. Are you ready for this? Like your energy is being drained, but you can't explain why. That's not paranoia, that's perception. There are objects placed in your environment that are not there for decoration, convenience, or style. They are instruments. They are silent agents assigned to monitor, manipulate, and mentally exhaust you. These are not ordinary items. They are disguised tools of destruction, camouflaged in plain sight. You see, the enemy of your purpose doesn't always come through confrontation. Sometimes it comes through infiltration. It walks in wearing a smile, speaking peace, but leaves residue behind. Residue that alters your emotions, your clarity, your drive. Maybe it's that antique mirror you bought from the flea market, or that handmade statue someone brought back from their spiritual trip. Maybe it's that gift that never felt right, but you kept it anyway because you didn't want to seem rude. Let me tell you something. When a tool is assigned, it doesn't need your belief to be effective. It just needs your permission to stay. Some objects are used as points of contact, anchors for spirits that thrive in confusion, sickness, delay, and division. They operate like open tabs on a computer. You think you closed the window, but something is still running in the background, draining your energy, corrupting your atmosphere. This is why no matter how much you clean your house, declutter your mind, or speak positive words, something still feels off. Because the problem isn't your words, it's what's listening to them. These objects don't just sit, they receive, they store, Have you noticed how arguments always erupt in that same corner of the house? Or how every time you walk past that one item, you feel irritated or anxious, but you can't explain it? That's not coincidence, that's contamination, spiritual contamination. These tools don't need to make noise to make impact. They work quietly, steadily, drawing strength from your ignorance. And once they learn your patterns, your routines, your weaknesses, they influence you without confrontation. And listen carefully, just because something came into your life during a good season, doesn't mean it carried a good spirit. Some objects were planted during your high moments, just so they could destroy you in your low moment. Now here's what's dangerous. These tools are often tied to memory, emotions, moments, and we hold on to them, not because we need them, but because we've attached identity to them. But here's the truth. Sometimes, holding on to the wrong thing is the very reason you can't step into the right season. If an object can study you, manipulate you, and distract you, imagine what happens when it's empowered. Because the next item isn't just destructive, it's decorated, beautiful, harmless looking, but its purpose, to entangle you. You ready for that? Some objects are more than just things, they're carriers, carriers of energy, carriers of influence, carriers of You thought you bought a souvenir, but what you really brought home was a spiritual assignment. Let me ask you, have you ever noticed how certain items in your house seem to shift the atmosphere around them? Like when you're near them, your mood changes, your thoughts get clouded, you start feeling low for no reason. That's not random, that's resonance. That object is carrying something, and it's transmitting it into your space. There are items placed strategically, not just to be seen, but to speak to your soul, your sleep, your schedule. They carry curses dressed as culture, oppression disguised as ornaments. You didn't just buy a decoration, you welcomed a device built to disrupt, to distract, to delay. Some of these cursed carriers are rooted in ritual. They were designed to be containers, vessels for spiritual activity, and once they're in your home, they begin to leak confusion, leak tension, leak fatigue. And here's the thing, you won't see it coming, because these objects often look beautiful, exotic, rare, valuable. But let me make it clear, value doesn't always mean virtue. Just because it cost you money, doesn't mean it won't cost you more in your mind, your relationships, even your peace. Some of the most expensive things people own are the very things pulling them into poverty. Not financial poverty, mental, emotional, spiritual poverty. And what's even more dangerous, these cursed carriers don't just affect you, they affect everyone under your roof. The children start acting out, the marriage starts falling apart, and everyone's pointing fingers, not realizing the real culprit is sitting silently on a shelf, or hanging quietly on a wall. These objects were activated before they ever entered your space. They were spoken over, touched, ritualized, empowered. You didn't just inherit a necklace, you inherited a history. You didn't just buy a mask, you bought a monitor, and what you thought was harmless is actually hostile. You wonder why every time you try to build momentum, something breaks. Why your finances always feel leaky. Why your creativity is blocked. Your energy drained. Your mind foggy. It's not just what's around you, it's what's within reach of you. Now let me warn you, some of these objects don't just carry energy, they bind it, they hold it, they trap you in cycles. Cycles of delay, cycles of emotional roller coasters, cycles of start-stop patterns that never seem to break. And here's the hard truth. You can't cast out what you continue to keep. As long as that object remains in your environment, its influence remains in your life. But what happens when the object doesn't just influence the atmosphere, it alters the structure? What happens when it begins to rebuild, reshape, and rewire your very home into a stronghold? Because that's exactly what the next object does. It doesn't just carry energy, it constructs bondage. You ready to go there? Access doesn't always require a key. Sometimes it just requires your agreement. And here's the scary part. You don't have to knowingly agree. All you have to do is ignore. When you lack awareness, you become available. You're not protected by what you don't know. you're exposed by it. And that's exactly how the enemy gains entrance. Not through force, but through permission. Silent, subtle, strategic, just waiting on you to do nothing. There are objects in your home right now, yes, right now, that are only able to function because your lack of knowledge gave them access. You didn't question where it came from. You didn't ask what it represents. You didn't feel peace, but you kept it anyway. That decision didn't just decorate your home, it opened a door. You ever wonder how storms suddenly started showing up in your life? How opportunities kept slipping through your fingers? How you kept repeating the same patterns, even after doing all the right things? Sometimes it's not because of what you did, it's because of what you allowed. When you allow an object into your space without discernment, you are signing off on its influence. And influence is powerful, because influence determines behavior. You don't even realize you've been walking in circles, stuck in loops, held hostage by something you own. This is how infiltration works. It doesn't need a violent entry, it just needs a welcome mat. And that welcome mat is called ignorance. When you lack knowledge, you leave your life open to be managed by something else, something unseen. And here's the twist. These objects don't just walk through the front door. Sometimes they hide in plain sight. They become part of your normal. They blend in with your routine. And over time you forget they were ever foreign. But what was foreign becomes familiar. And what's familiar becomes untouchable. That's why some people can't let go of certain items, even when they know something's not right. Because now that object is part of their identity. And if the enemy can tie your identity to an item, he doesn't need to control your house. He controls you. This is not about fear. This is about freedom. Because once you become aware, you get to choose. And once you choose, you take back control. But you can't conquer what you refuse to confront. And you can't confront what you continue to call normal. So ask yourself, what have I allowed into my space? Not realizing I was giving it authority over my atmosphere. What doors have I left open, simply because I never checked? Because the next object, it's not just about access. It's not just about energy. It's about impact. Deep, personal, emotional impact. It looks like nothing, but it will shock you. Are you sitting down for what's coming next? This one right here will shock you. Because it's not strange. It's not spooky. It's not dark or creepy. It's personal. It's something so common, so ordinary, so normal, you probably never questioned it. In fact, you might even love it, hold it, sleep near it, cherish it. You know what it is. Photos. Yes, photographs. Now before you tune out, lean in. Pictures carry power, not because of the image itself, but because of the emotion, the memory, the moment they represent. And if that moment was connected to trauma, betrayal, heartbreak, or manipulation, that image becomes a point of bondage, a spiritual anchor, keeping you tied to a time, a person, or a pain that you were meant to heal from. You ever notice how every time you look at that old photo, something shifts in you? Your mood changes, your thoughts spiral, your confidence drops. You start remembering things you should have left in the past. That's not nostalgia, that's access. Photos are not just memories, they are mirrors. And whatever is attached to that memory is reflected into your atmosphere every time you engage with it. And here's what's shocking. Some of the photos in your home were taken during moments you didn't even realize were spiritual setups. Maybe it was a picture taken with someone who carried dark energy, someone who spoke against your purpose behind your back, while smiling beside you in that photo. Now that image is sitting in your space, smiling at you daily, while carrying opposition in silence. Or maybe it's a family photo, where everything looked happy, but you knew what really happened that day. Pain behind the smiles, secrets behind the eyes. The photo may be frozen, but the energy behind it is alive. And here's the twist. Some of these images were used in rituals. That's right. Someone took a copy or a screenshot, or even scrolled through your profile, just long enough to make a spiritual deposit. They didn't need your hair, your clothes, your signature. They just needed your face. And you framed it and hung it up like it was just art. But it's not art, it's access. That's why your environment can feel heavy, even when it's beautiful. Because the weight isn't in the room, it's in the walls, the pictures, the memories. the emotional contracts you didn't even know you signed through a smile. So ask yourself, what photos am I holding onto that keep me held back? What memories am I framing that are actually framing? Because every time you look at it, you're not just looking, you're linking back to a version of you that you were supposed to outgrow. And if a photo can hold you in place, imagine what happens when you bring in an object that was designed not just to reflect you but to trap you. Because the next object does exactly that. It doesn't just sit, it doesn't just carry, it binds. You sure you're ready for what's next? Some objects don't just represent bondage, they bind it, not emotionally, not symbolically, but spiritually. They are crafted for one purpose: to trap energy, trap progress, trap people. You ever walk into a room and feel like something's holding you back? Like no matter how much you push forward, something's pulling you down. That invisible pressure, that weight on your chest, that confusion in your thoughts, that's not just life happening, that's a system. And some objects are systems. There are things in your home, yes, your home, that are not decorations. They're devices, designed to contain you, to hold your spirit in cycles. And what's wild, they come in the form of jewelry, sculptures, dream catchers, carvings, cloths, masks, coins, innocent-looking things. But what they carry is anything but innocent. These are what I call trap objects. Objects empowered with rituals, symbols, languages and frequencies you don't even understand. And because you don't understand it, you don't question it. You just place it, wear it, hang it, honor it. Some of these objects were made to house spiritual assignments. They carry intent. They carry invocation. You're not just bringing home something unique or authentic. You're bringing home a container, a holding place for resistance, for warfare, for stagnation. Ever notice how since that object entered your space, your plans keep getting delayed, your sleep became restless, your emotions unpredictable, your relationships strained, your dreams strange? It's not just coincidence, it's coordination. That thing was planted and now it's functioning. What makes this more dangerous is that these objects often come from places you respect: cultural artifacts, family heirlooms, spiritual gifts. And because it came from someone you love, you never question the weight it carries. But it's not about who gave it, it's about what came with it. There are objects that act like spiritual cages. They don't have to touch you physically to hold you emotionally. You feel stuck, limited, boxed in, like there's a wall around your purpose. But there is no wall, it's an assignment anchored by a thing you thought was harmless. And you want to know what's worse? These trap objects don't always look strange. Some of them are beautiful, delicately crafted, covered in gold, gemstones, fine materials. But don't be fooled. Just because it glitters doesn't mean it's safe. Beauty can be bad. And here's a truth you have to face. As long as that object remains, the cycle continues. You can pray, you can fast, you can fight. But if the object is still anchored, the bondage still operates. So ask yourself, what in your house has a history you never questioned? What are you carrying, wearing, honoring, that may be holding you hostage? Because if an object can trap you in cycles, the next one, it does something even more chilling. It doesn't trap you, it invites something else in. And once it's in, it doesn't want to leave. You ready to open that? There are some objects that don't just sit in silence, they summon. They don't just exist in your home, they invite something else into it. Have you ever noticed how certain spaces in your house feel heavy? Like something is watching? You walk into that room and suddenly feel anxious, distracted, or even afraid, and you don't know why. Let me tell you, sometimes it's not a feeling, it's a presence. Something was invited in and it never left. And what opened the door? An object. Now hear this. It didn't walk in. It was welcomed through art, through symbols, through statues, through items that were crafted not just to look interesting, but to become spiritual gateways. Objects that act like portals. Yes, portals. That strange statue sitting in your living room, that foreign symbol hanging over your bed, that unusual trinket someone gave you for protection. It's not just art, it's an invitation. an open door for spirits to move freely through your environment. And once they're in, they don't knock, they don't ask for permission, they begin to shift the atmosphere. They influence thoughts, they feed off tension, they fuel dysfunction. You're not just dealing with bad vibes, you're dealing with something designed to disturb peace, to disrupt clarity, and to dismantle destiny. Now here's the dangerous part. These objects are often labeled sacred, holy, spiritual, protective. But protect what? Because ever since it came into your home, things have gotten worse. Arguments started. Children became rebellious. You feel drained. Your business is stuck. Your sleep is broken. That's not protection. That's possession. And it's subtle. You'll find yourself blaming stress or hormones or a long day when the whole time something unseen is feeding off your atmosphere. And the object? That's the legal right, the permission slip, the invitation. These invitation objects don't come alone. They come with history. They were made with intention, sometimes centuries ago. And when you brought it in, you didn't just bring in a piece of the past, you brought in the spirit behind it, the force that was embedded in it, activated it, and now operates through it. You wonder why you're doing things you never used to do, feeling things that don't make sense, attracting chaos, losing focus, losing peace, losing time. It might not be you that changed. It might be the presence that entered. And here's the scary truth. Presence always needs a place. And if you don't take back that space, something else will own it. That object is doing more than decorating your room. It's governing it. So ask yourself, what did I unknowingly invite? What's been walking through the open door I never meant to leave open? Because the next object, it doesn't just open doors, it locks them. And once it locks in, it doesn't just affect your space. It starts targeting your mind. You're ready to uncover what's been working against your sanity. There's a kind of object that doesn't just decorate, it dominates. It doesn't hang on your wall, it hangs over your mind. And once it settles in, it begins to quietly reshape the way you think. Not all at once, but little by little, whisper by whisper, until the way you see yourself, the way you see life, even the way you process truth, starts to shift. These objects are not always loud or strange looking. In fact, many of them are books, paintings, music records, or pieces of media passed down, gifted or collected, carrying philosophies, belief systems, mental strongholds. And once you allow them in your space, you also allow them into your mind. You ever wonder why you've started questioning your worth? Why your confidence feels fractured? Why your decisions seem delayed by constant doubt, confusion, or fear? You may not be battling with thoughts that are yours. Some thoughts are seeded, and the soil, your environment, that antique book on the shelf, that obscure artwork, full of symbols you never understood, that inspirational quote, framed in beautiful script. It's more than just ink and canvas. It carries ideas, and ideas are powerful because every belief begins as an idea. But once it's accepted, it becomes a structure, and structures shape behavior. There are belief systems being enforced in your life right now that you never chose, you simply absorbed. Why? Because the object sat near you long enough to become familiar. Familiarity builds comfort, and comfort allows entrance. The most dangerous kind of influence isn't the one that screams, it's the one that sits silently, waiting for your agreement, waiting for your embrace, waiting for your mind to relax, just enough for the seed to be planted. Now think, what messages are playing on repeat in your home? What philosophies are echoing through your art, your media, your symbols, your quotes? Every repeated message becomes meditation, and meditation becomes programming. This is how some people live with deep mental battles, fighting with thoughts that were never authored by them. And when the enemy can't trap your body, he goes after your mind. Because if he can capture your thoughts, he can control your future. And all he needs is one object, one item to act as a mouthpiece, to repeat lies in silence, to preach fear without words, to remind you of trauma without speaking, to distort your identity without lifting a finger. So ask yourself, what in your home is teaching me something I never agreed to believe? What am I mentally aligning with that may be breaking me slowly, quietly, daily? Because if the enemy can get in your mind, guess what he comes for next? Your atmosphere. The next object. It doesn't speak, it doesn't bind, it doesn't just carry history, it hosts some. And once it's in, it's not just about control, it's about territory. Ready to find out what's claiming yours. Now listen closely, because this one isn't just sitting in your space. It's claiming it. It's not just present, it's possessed. You see, some objects are not meant to exist passively in your home. They are territorial by design, and once they arrive, they begin to alter the atmosphere, as if they have the right to be there. You ever walk into your own house and feel like something's off, like the air is thick, like the peace you once had is gone? That's not just your imagination. Some objects are more than matter, they're markers. They declare this belongs to me now, and if you're unaware, they'll keep claiming more. It could be a tribal piece, a ritual cloth, a carved image, a strange mask, something you thought was just artistic, unique, cultural, or antique. But underneath the look, underneath the design, there is intention. Not every item was made for decoration, some were made for domination. They were designed to establish spiritual realm, to give invisible forces legal territory within a physical space. And once it enters, it doesn't just sit on a table or hang on a wall, it establishes influence. Influence over emotions, over relationships, over energy flow. And here's the truth, where influence grows, control follows. You may start noticing patterns, resistance in your finances, constant tension between people who used to be close, a string of bad news, feelings of anxiety in specific areas of the house. And no matter how much you clean, things still feel unclean. That's not dirt, that's dominion. Because territorial objects don't just affect the house, they affect the people in it. Your dreams shift, your peace erodes, your clarity fogs, your rest disappears, and the most dangerous part, you adapt to it. You get used to the heaviness, you normalize the noise until the chaos becomes your new normal. These objects often enter through gifts, inheritance, souvenirs, things picked up on travels, passed down through generations. And because the source was someone you trust, you assume the item is safe. But origin doesn't cancel intention, and good people can unknowingly pass on dangerous things. So here's the real question. What object in your home has taken too much space? Not physical space, but spiritual. What has changed since it arrived? What did it activate? What did it silence? What part of you started fading after it entered? Because once a spirit claims space, it fights to keep it. And if you don't remove the marker, the war doesn't stop. It just shifts tactics. And now, we reach the final object, the one that's hardest to detect, the one that hides in plain sight, not because it's powerful on its own, but because it looks so harmless. You ready for the last one? It might be the one you see every single day. It's not carved from wood, painted with symbols, or draped in cloth. No, this one sneaks in disguised as technology, a device you touch every day, rely on for connection, entertainment, and information. Yes, your electronic device. Think about it. Your phone, your tablet, your laptop, your smart TV. They are portals, gateways to the world, tools of communication. But what if I told you they also serve as invisible conduits for energy you never agreed to invite? These devices don't just transfer data, they transfer frequencies. Frequencies that can influence your mood, your thoughts, your energy, and even your environment. Have you ever felt drained after scrolling endlessly, or anxious after watching certain video, or distracted to the point you lose focus on what matters? That's not random. These devices emit waves that can disrupt your mental clarity, weaken your emotional balance, and open doors to influences you can't always see or understand. Even more unsettling, some of these devices carry hidden apps, programs, or connections that can act like spiritual gateways. They receive and transmit signals far beyond what you control. Messages, images, and sounds embedded with subtle triggers, designed to keep you distracted, fearful, or disempowered. And here's the key: because these devices are so integral to modern life, they become extensions of your space and your mind. They invade your bedroom, your workspace, your relaxation area. They keep you connected to the outside world, but they can disconnect you from your inner peace. The danger is that you don't see these devices as threats. You see them as necessity. They are so embedded in your routine that their influence is normalized. But normalization doesn't mean harmlessness. It means unnoticed control. Ask yourself, how often do you check your phone? How long are you plugged in? What kind of content are you consuming? Is it feeding your purpose or feeding your fear? Is it empowering your mind or draining your spirit? Because in this modern age, the greatest trap can be right in your hand. The device that promises connection, but may actually be disconnecting you from your best self. So, as you reflect on these objects, the pictures, the trap devices, the invitations, the territorial markers, and now the invisible tech, you realize the battlefield is closer than you thought. Your home, your sanctuary, your mind, and your atmosphere are all arenas of influence. But remember this: awareness is the first step to freedom. Recognize what you allow into your space, what you entertain in your mind, and what you accept in your environment. You have the power to choose what stays and what goes. Stand firm, guard your space, and reclaim your peace. The journey doesn't end here, it begins. Are you ready to take back what's yours?